we have not been together for almost 6 months now, so I have a lot of information to talk about, and I'll try and pass it along to you. And if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll take that. First and most important thing, the board has approved the budget for 2021, and your assessment is going down by $106. And if you read the information, and we'll have this on the front page of the October issue, we have elevated that assessment for 4 years now. And this is all because of Matthew and Dorian and a couple of other hurricanes that passed by very close to us. We kept it at $250 for 3 years, then we lowered it this year to $125 with the stipulation that once we got to the $2.5 million mark in our weather casualty fund and paid off all the debts for Matthew, we would lower it back down and we'd lose that last $125, and they have done exactly that. So not too many places can say that they lowered something once they raised it, but we brought it back down. So it's $106 less next year, and I think there's specific information in there about if you pay by credit card or what have you, what it's going to be. If you look at the advertising, there's a slide in there. We took a hit. It went down. It wasn't horrible, but it was off. And this is largely due, obviously, to the pandemic. Restaurants, we're not advertising. Vendors, we're not advertising. The first thing a lot of people do is cut advertising. We're slowly seeing that trend back up. We did budget it down for next year, but we're hoping that we're going to exceed that. Leah's fairly confident that we're going to be okay in that area, but you can see the comparison that it is off. Capital transfer fees. The pandemic brought us things that went down, and the pandemic thing brought us things that went up. A or B fees are off the charts. People are coming down, and because their homes have value and have increased in value, they're taking out home equity loans and they're making improvements to their property. The number one amenity, what do you think the number one amenity is? Outdoor amenity. Pool. Everyone wants a pool in the backyard. So we've been improving a lot of pools in backyards. Also, folks from up north, usually the Northeast, where the pandemic has hit hardest, and there is issues with crime, they're coming down. And there's a slide all the way in the back that I gave you a replacement for, and that's compliments of John Herron. We're down to about a month worth of inventory and about 30 or so properties on the market currently, but we have about 70 plus homes in the pipeline to close right now. So if anything that goes on the market that is the least bit desirable gets scoffed up in a day or two. It's moving very, very quickly. So the plus side of that is we're collecting on capital transfer fees. We are collecting on A or B fees. And when people make improvements to their homes, that means more vendors come through the gates, and we're collecting more in commercial passes and commercial decals. So those three areas were up. Advertising was down. Classes obviously were down. Lessons were down. Rental fees were non-existent because the buildings can't be rented. So we took a hit there. When we did kids camp and we made all the adjustments to it, we hired additional staff for safety. We did the same thing with the pool. But it ended up averaging out because we had closed the pool for a period of time. We had closed the tennis courts for a period of time. So we lost those salaries and those expenses. So when we went with the additional staff, kind of averaged out. We're running right now, and Todd, where's Todd? Correct me if I'm wrong, we're running about $150,000 to the good on the budget. I don't see that changing that much as we come into the end of the year. The one thing that we're not sure of When the pandemic hit, we had already collected 95% of the assessments. So we really did a great job. Everybody paid. We don't know what's going to happen turn of the year. But look, judging from what I'm hearing from folks, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And we budgeted for a little bit of a uncollectible, but not much. We really think we're in pretty good shape in that point. The three things that folks talked to us most about when they moved from where they were to here, when they found out that they could just use a cell phone and a computer to do their business, is that they had a choice of Wi-Fi from 2 carriers, and they had fiber in the ground, and they had good cell phone service. And the third thing was, and some people hate this, the airport. They had a local airport. They didn't even have to get on 278 to get to. Now, they haven't been flying out of there, but that'll change. But those are the reasons why they most often said they want to, and of course, all the amenities, the reputation, so on and so forth. Email subscriber list, we're above 5,100, and that grows all the time. We're redesigning the website, and Leah is working on that with a vendor who's already been selected. I think you're going to love it when it's done. It's going to be much more user-friendly. I always tell people, and Harry does too, Harry wasn't able to come today. Everybody knows Harry is, right? Okay. Harry couldn't be here, but I know he would want me to tell you to make sure you keep your pet on a leash. Even though tennis court lessons were down, membership fees went way up because we only allowed people who bought a membership to play. We eliminated the daily court fee. You couldn't play with the daily court fee, you had to be a member. So Keith has recruited about 40 new members. So that is way up. We're going to do a coffee on November 19th if the weather cooperates. 278, you're going to hear a lot of stories about that. There was a newspaper story about what's perceived to be an illegal meeting, and they were talking about 278 court of review. That is all over the charts. I believe they're going to end up hiring a consultant to look at it. There's a lot of creative solutions that are going on out there, and you just have to stand by. I mean, nothing is off the table. I've even heard that there's a flyover that they may propose between Wild Horse Road and Spanish Wells Road. Because if they don't do something about those 3 lights before you get to Cross Island, I don't care how many lanes you put there, it's still going to back up. So you've got Swire Pope, you've got Gumtree, and you've got Spanish Wells Road. That's what holds things up. We've got a new stormwater management agreement that we're looking at with the town. Someone asked me about the police thing with the town, whether we get involved in that. We really don't. Councilmember Sanford is here. Where's Glenn? All the way in the back. Glenn represents our district, if you don't know that. Okay? He's running for re-election, in case you didn't know that. And they're working on, and he lives in Hilton Head Plantation, obviously, but we're not campaigning here. And Glenn voted favorably for the $100,000 for the Pine Island Beach renourishment, but that shouldn't weigh into your decision to vote for. The policing issue is going to be a little bit of a give and take. I actually talked with the chairman of the county council, and they believe they're absolutely right that they should be charging us for the fee. I've talked with my colleagues, and collectively, the larger gated communities on the island pay in excess of $9 million for their own security. Our budget for security is about $1.7 million. And if you don't think that relieves the sheriff of a huge burden, you're mistaken. Do we use the sheriff? Absolutely. We do. Do we save the sheriff a whole lot of trips here? Yeah, we do. So that needs to be taken into consideration too. Beaufort County Public Schools, October 5th. If you don't have any children, you don't care, but maybe you do. But they're going to start face-to-face twice a week starting October 5th. Security Department, I can't say enough positive things about those men and women. who stayed here on their posts, doing their job through this whole thing. Between the office staff and the security officers who are up close and personal, you know, they put themselves in harm's way, but they were here every single day doing their jobs and doing them well. Trash and recycling. If you've been following this issue, the convenience center over on Dillon Road, how many people use the transfer station on Dillon Road? Yeah, I knew, yeah. They're going to start a decal system. They're going to keep it open. You know, there was a scare that it was only funded to the end of the year. It is the busiest convenience station in Beaufort County, by far. And it'll stay open. They're going to do some type of a barcode or decal system, they say starting in October, and limit folks to 2 trips a week. The idea is finally to eliminate the contractors. They have big signs there that say no contractors, but anybody who's used that facility know full well contractors are there all the time, and there is no regulation whatsoever. So they're going to cut off the contractors. They're only going to allow residents, and I asked the question, is a resident a property owner or is a resident a full-time resident? A resident is a property owner. So if you own property, even if you're a part-time resident, you can get a decal and you can use the convenience center. So there's going to be more to come on that because, you know, the trash issue is not going to go away. The Hickory Hill site, they say is good to about 2025. And interesting fact, that huge trash pile that was burning that it cost millions of dollars to remove, it took 7 months off the capacity of the Hickory Hill landfill. When they put about 90% of that trash in that landfill. So there'll be more to come on that. The recycling market, when China stopped taking our recycling, the bottom kind of fell out of that. So, you know, recycling now costs money to process, whereas before you made money on it. And that's the issue with recycling. So there's going to be more to come on it. There's a security report. I don't think the security report was attached in there. Is it in the back? Yeah. It is, good. For August, the drainage project on Deerfield Road is moving on. We thought it was going to take a week. It's taken a month and then some. And it's still not done yet because we keep on re-engineering it as we go along, which is partially very, very good. Everybody complained about the lagoons going down, and then the rains came and the lagoons went back up. So they're back up to full capacity. Keep your fingers crossed. We are now in the Greek alphabet for hurricanes. Last week, I think there were like 5 tropical depressions out in the Atlantic. I think we're down to maybe 2 that I don't think any of them are going to be threatening us. It's still October, so we still have September, we still have a ways to go, but hopefully we're going to get through this without anything hitting us. If you haven't gotten the flu shot, Harris Teeter is doing the flu shot next. You can sign up for that. If you're a tennis player, you know, USTA remains all canceled. Many of you know that Chief Benoit passed away. And we did lower our flags for Chief Benoit. We have them lowered for Justice Ginsburg right now. The chief was ill. He was in the hospital. I don't disclose people's personal health. The family wants to disclose that at some point. That's their prerogative, but we don't disclose, you know, personal health issues of staff members. But it's very, very unfortunate, you know, because of this pandemic. We're speaking with the family. We've offered one of our buildings for a celebration of life service. But again, we can't do anything inside, so we're waiting for the family to organize something, so, you know, stay tuned for that. That unfortunate event opened up the position of Director of Security, and we have a wonderful individual. If you read the resume I sent out, which will be in Plantation Living again in October, we promoted Captain Gaither to Major Gaither, and Warren is now our Director of Security. So, Warren. Naturally, it doesn't end there because Warren was deputy director of security, which opened up the position of deputy director. So we have a really, really deep bullpen of officers and senior staff. And we had two people that put their names in for that position, and we vetted them. Todd, myself, and Warren interviewed them. It took quite a while to make the selection because it was a tough pick. But we felt the best person for the job, the most qualified individual, was Vanessa Green. And Vanessa was lieutenant, now she is captain, Vanessa Green. Vanessa, try and come here for a second. Yeah, you got to come over here. Yep. See, that way you can take your mask off and people can look at it. So you look more like a law enforcement officer than a bandit. Vanessa's been with us for 20 years. She got here just a little bit after I arrived. And this gal will wrangle an alligator with the best of them. But if you know my spiel with Vanessa, if you put her near a spider, she's on top of a table. So if you want to get her, you tell her to wrestle the alligator, which she'll do in a heartbeat. But if a little tiny spider, chase her out the door. But we're very, very fortunate to have Vanessa. Okay, the Cypress is going to offer a flu shot, but you have to be 65 to get one from the Cypress. The survey on the name change, we have about 2,450, so that more than half the folks have replied, half the properties replied. It's open until the 30th, and when we get that all done, the board will take a look at it and report back to the community on that. Instead of the Fall Harvest Festival, which is held right here, and we do hay rides, and we're going to do a trunk or treat. And we're going to do our kids' Halloween parade. We're not going to cancel trick or treat, but we're going to encourage anyone who participates to do it in their driveway. So you can appropriately social distance, but we'd really like you to participate in the trunk or treat, drive your car, well, social distance the trunks, and the kids can go from trunk to trunk. It makes it a lot easier and a lot safer. And we're going to do the Halloween pet parade as long as the weather cooperates, because it's an outdoor event. And we already talked about trick or treat. Kids camp. We did kids camp. Attendance was down a little bit, but not much. Parents did not want those kids at home. And the grandparents wanted them home less. And we received Dear John letters, poison pen letters that said you are not canceling kids camp. In fact, they were ticked off that we didn't extend it for 2 weeks because school was delayed. It went fine. We took temperatures every day. We social distanced. We kept everything outside, and we did not have a report of any child, getting sick. So it worked out. We did the same thing with the pool, and the one thing we're going to do with the pool during the month of October, we're going to eliminate the 2-hour time block. Obviously, attendance is way down. We didn't feel we needed that because so few people were going to be using it during the month of October. So that'll be an added bonus. We eliminated the house guest card use for this year, and hopefully we'll get back to some semblance of normal for next year. Something that I'm sure that is going to get everybody's attention. It looks like Bonnie Lowry is going to sell the Old Ford Pub, and it will be developed as a piece of residential property. I always say if you want to keep the Old Ford Pub, please buy it and run it as the Old Ford Pub. It is zoned by right for 24 units. And it will probably be a multi-family situation, a condominium, 6 across, 4 stories tall, which is within the parameters. We have not seen the plans yet. We just know that it's in the works. So that's coming down the pipe. We also have rumors about Bay Point, and this is popping up. Bay Point is that island that is currently under consideration by the county council, not the town council, and it's going to go to their Planning Board of Zoning Appeals. Is that where it is right now? To the county's Board of Zoning Appeals. Lots of folks are opposed to it for lots of different reasons. There was a rumor that they were going to use the marina, our marina, for an embarkation for that particular development. We have no knowledge of that at this point, and we are going to reach out to the folks who own the marina and own windows on the waterway to see if there's any truth to that rumor. We don't get into a twist about rumors, but we will follow up. Pine Island Beach. We flipped the steps due to popular demand at the end. That was done, I think, last week, David? Okay. We are going to do a beach renourishment, and we're going to wait until hurricane season is over and we're out of the woods before we put the sand there. The board approved $225,000 for the renourishment project. $100,000 of that is town money. That, as I said before, Mr. Sanford voted in favor of. So it'll be a good plug of sand that we'll put in there. And that will be done, I want to say late October, early November. So we'll see how that goes. So I'll send out an email blast on that. We did the blood drive. Final day for Deepwater Aerobics. That's winding down. People buy memorial benches all the time, and it's something that, you know, if you have someone you want to honor, the problem is we're running out of places to put memorial benches. However, once the Dolphin Head project gets a green light, there'll be lots of opportunities there if you want to donate something to honor a loved one. Benches, playground equipment, you name it, refrigerators, stoves, we'll put your name on anything you want. All right, we've already talked about hurricanes. Short-term rental amendment. There were some folks who called me, emailed me, were upset because there was a non-disclosure agreement that was formulated by the board and the folks who sued us. The lawsuit was settled, and it ended up being a non-disclosure agreement. Now, unless a judge tells me that I can divulge the information and the board can divulge the information, we're not going to divulge the information. They will be able to do short-term rent for a period of time. I can't tell you how long. And that's it. But the lawsuit goes away. And there were arguments, legal arguments on both sides, whether or not we would prevail. I thought very strongly that we would prevail in a lawsuit, but there were other states and there were other courts of appeals where the other side had prevailed, where they said that if you moved in under a certain covenant, you would have to, anybody who moved in after that covenant, it only applied to them. And then there were other states that said you moved in and it said that they could be amended and you agreed to that when you moved in and any amendments. And that's where we were, and we felt that the law was clearly on our side. However, when you go to court, you don't know what's going to happen. And this had some definitive end to it. And it was for a very, very few properties. And the boards felt comfortable entering into that agreement to avoid a protracted lawsuit and the possibility that we might lose what we had worked so hard to do. So clearly, this was an issue that the entire population was behind. I mean, obviously there were some, but it was overwhelming when you get 67% plus of the folks who voted in favor of it. It's huge. We already talked about the pool, Dolphin Head. this has been delayed twice, I should say 3 times now. We're going to try it again on Monday, on Monday the 28th. We have a backup date, I think, of Wednesday the 30th. If that weather doesn't hold for us there. Tom Parker is the architect. Todd Theodore with Wooden Partners will be there as well. They have done some really neat renderings that you're going to be very impressed with. The project that we believe is going to be about $2.8 million. And we had to eliminate probably, $1.5 million to get it down to that. But we can phase in the rest of it, over time. The good news is that wasp is going away. We have about $1.9 million in the capital fund right now. By the end of the year, about $2 million. We have all of 2021, and we're averaging about $400,000 in capital transfer fees. So we'll be by the end of the year about 2.4. So we can start next year, and we could probably internally borrow from ourselves and then pay it back with the capital transfer fee. But that will be up to the finance committee to take a look at that and see exactly how they want to do it. So we're looking at, once we get your input on this particular project, and it goes back to the rec committee and back to the board to bid it out so we can find out what the real number is, that'll give us an indication of when we can start. And I'm hoping that we can do something in the spring of next year, after it's bid and gets going. And probably it'll be about a 9-month, I would say, project. So we'll see how that goes. But that's a very, very exciting project. I always talk about alligators. I forgot that. How many new folks? First timers? Nobody? Well, welcome. It's nice to have you here. Don't mess with the alligators. They were here before you were. If you feed them, you're basically killing them because they become associated, with you as a food source, and we have to put them down. We removed 2 yesterday, Warren?
Yes, sir.
We had one that was that looked like it had been shot, actually. And we had that gator removed, and we had another one that was showed aggression that was over in Spring Lake Lagoon, and we had that alligator removed too. But oftentimes the only reason they become aggressive is if they get fed. And it doesn't matter how big the alligator is. I have 12-footers walking around here and they won't bother anybody. But if you feed them, they become accustomed to humans giving them food, and they will come towards you, demanding food, and you may be their food, so don't do that. We urge you not to feed the wildlife in general. I'm not talking about bird feeders here. I'm talking about raccoons, possums, deer, so on and so forth, because you're encouraging them, you're artificially elevating the population so the land can't carry it. But don't mess with the gators. If you see somebody or a child messing with a gator, call security. All right. I don't know if I brought my slide, but there's a slide that I handed to you about home sales. And you can see from that we're down in the inventory to about a month and a couple of days. 1.5 months worth of inventory. What's healthy, John?
For us, 3.
So 3 months worth of inventory, and about 30 plus properties that are on the market right now.
Yes.
And you can see that prices are going up. So the pressure is upward. We're in a very, very good position and a very desirable, obviously, location here. That's what I have.